There are 3 parts to setting good goals for the year. The first part is figuring out your vision, your why, and the what do I want to do with my life? What's important to me? What do I value? The second part is reflecting on how I've done in those areas without judgment. Have I made plans and attempts in prioritizing this? And if so, how did that go? If things didn't work out, why not? And what have I learned from yet another year of data points? And then lastly, specifically for this year, what do I want to focus on working on that is in alignment towards this greater goal, this long-term vision? If this framework sounds familiar, that's because it's a very similar idea on how I plan out my financial goals for the year, which was a video I did last week, and I'll link that below. So starting with the vision of what I value in life. This has gone through kind of a few iterations throughout time, but actually the core ideas have remained surprisingly constant. The first thing that's important to me is family and close friends. Creating memories with them, supporting them in meaningful ways, and just spending time with them. In the last year, I think we did all right here. Our family went on a bunch of trips together. We did some more road trip distance visits with other family as well. And we also made time for friends. I will say in the friends department, it feels like with all the other things going on in life, this sometimes for me is the one that kind of gets forgotten. I remember one time last year when I was going to go meet a friend for dinner, the looks on my kids' faces like, what? You have a life outside of here? It was somehow a mind-blowing concept to them, and I would like to change that. My husband and I also did more date nights this year, and we ventured back more into the dining and enjoying food together, which is something that we both really like doing, and I'd like to do more of that. Within the parenting bucket and looking back on this year, one thing that I feel like I could really work on still is just being very present and being calm and like completely unfazed. I don't necessarily believe in using little phrases as tactics in situations with kids, but more the energy that I'm bringing, the conscious effort of just being more understanding and calmer and more like a steady lighthouse in whatever storm they are going through. The second general aspect of life is basically this Venn diagram of what I find meaningful. In the last year, through a ton of reflecting, I realized that what really drives me comes down to a couple things. One is this desire to continuously learn and do something creative and kind of beat the next level in a game. It's kind of like a curiosity, a sense of adventure, the joy of like achieving something. And then the second component is the need to fundamentally be a good, useful human being. These inclinations show up in more hobby-like things like wanting to learn something new, wanting to go travel, try new food, explore different cultures. But also I have to recognize this is kind of the foundation of what drives me in a career or in a business sense, where there is also this third element that is money. I'm the happiest when I can hit all 3. And conversely, when I'm out of alignment, that's when I start to feel like something is missing and something isn't quite as fulfilling as I'd like it to be. The third priority in this long-term vision is health and self-care. And this includes physical health, mental health, and just self-care and kind of the external things. And if you were to observe my day-to-day, it wouldn't be apparent that I am prioritizing this at all. And I really want to change that. As a healthcare person, I know how important this is, and I know the how, and I also have a very strong why. I want to see my kids grow up to be adults. I want to meet them when they are there. I want to be the grandparents to their kids if they choose to have kids. All these things. It's just that all of this feels so far away, and there's always something else that's more urgent, something else that is for someone else that makes this feel kind of selfish, but I know it isn't. One obvious example is exercise. I know I should, but there is always some other excuse. Oh, I have to figure out dinner first. Oh, I have to do this other thing, like return this to the post office. And then by later in the day, it's getting too late. I don't feel like it anymore. I'm tired. I need to relax. And I would end up doing these like one-off yoga sessions, one-off go for a walk, but it has never been able to be this sustainable, consistent thing. And I think the barrier is that it takes up too much mental space to decide when and how and where and what of the exercise. I've tried using an Apple Watch and I started just ignoring the prompts to stand up. I've scheduled into the calendar and it hasn't worked. I just ignored it. At the end of the day though, without health, none of the other things I want are even possible. And so this year, I really want to make this the priority that I say it is theoretically. And I want to work on my mental health and physical health and also just take care of the vanity type stuff that I know someone will find frivolous, but I also feel like some of the external things are intricately tied to how you feel inside and how you show up as your best self. All right, so after having some clarity on what I want out of life and how I've been doing on those areas thus far, now I can get more specific about what I want to work on this year. My first goal is to do some sort of activity daily for at least 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be that strenuous. It could be stretching or walking, or if I'm feeling particularly ambitious, I might do something that breaks a sweat. Now, I very well know that this is below the recommended amount for a proper grown-up, but I also want to be realistic. The goal here is to get into a habit of doing something every day and figuring out a system of what can I do to make sure this happens consistently long-term. Looking back at all the methods I've tried so far, they all rely on some level of decision-making. And so I'd like to remove that as much as possible, remove the barriers so that it becomes a little more automatic. My day-to-day routine just varies quite a bit, and I think the most likely place where I can consistently find 15 minutes of downtime is actually at work. So I got this little yoga mat thing. I love that it folds in a zigzag way so that like the dirty side stays together and it doesn't cross-contaminate. I know this sounds massively germophobic, but I do work in a hospital, guys. This doesn't mean I'm only going to do any form of exercise at work, but this I think will really help reduce some of that barrier. My second goal that is related to physical health is cooking more at home. I like cooking, it's healthier and honestly sometimes tastier. And also it overlaps with my financial goal of like minimizing unnecessary takeout. If you remember me mentioning this in the financial goals video, I did actually find an assistant who can help offload some other things and also maybe some of the preliminary food prep, kind of like a sous chef. I know how ridiculous that sounds, but I'm really excited about this arrangement and I will keep you guys posted on how it goes. From a mental health angle, as I take on all these adventures and try out new things and learn, inevitably, I sometimes go down a spiral of exploring how I have failed, and that failure kind of gets exaggerated and I feel really bad about myself and beat myself up, which then becomes completely unhelpful. I have found that journaling has really helped me do a lot of reflection, writing down memories, processing really complex thoughts and emotions, and basically it gives me a chance to reset and bring back some calm. I currently do this very sporadically, maybe once a month, and I'd like to, for this year, commit to doing this once a week, however long it is, just write down a few thoughts and declutter my mind and just bring back calm baseline Lydia. I'm gonna try leaving my journal right next to my bed with a pen to allow this to occur more seamlessly. Now, from a self-care angle, my goal is to go to the spa or get a facial or do a manicure, pedicure, or do something once a month. Some people might think this is superficial, but I only have one face. I only have one body, and I want to take good care of it. There's something about putting your best external self forward that kind of encourages the internal self to match that energy and match that confidence. And honestly, I kind of just enjoy it. I never thought twice about these things before I had kids, but now I like over question whether I absolutely need it. Anyway, I bought a gift card to the spa that I like. In a way, it removes this barrier of money because like I've already committed this budget to go to that. So why not look up the calendar and just book an appointment for an hour once a month and go enjoy myself. Now, moving on to the category that is friends, family, and relationships. The first goal here is to do 2 to 3 international trips with family. And to be honest, some of this is kind of already in the works, but that would be the goal. The second goal is to do monthly road trips to visit other family that is within driving distance. Traveling, no matter how close or how far, forces me to break a little bit of routine, and that slight discomfort of being somewhere where you don't speak the language, where the rules might be a little bit different and you're trying to figure out what those are and blend in. I find that really exhilarating, and that brings me a lot of joy. And to be able to do those things with family, with friends, with people I care about, and hopefully inspire my kids to like those things too, I'm really excited about these goals. The third one is to do monthly date nights, and we'll have grandparents or hire a babysitter to help. The fourth goal is to make a plan at least once a month with a friend. And this would be in addition to whatever social plans that my husband has. He's definitely more of an extrovert, so I feel like there's always already social activities that are penciled in because of him or because of the kids, whatever play dates and birthday parties and whatnot. For these 2 monthly recurring type of goals, I'm going to put this into motion as a recurring task that will pop up and remind me every month so that I know when to at least initiate something if something hasn't been planned. The last goal in the family category is a little harder to define, and that is to be more present and more of a role model to my kids. I think all of the health related goals I've set thus far will help me kind of just show up as the best version of myself. And then separately, all the career and business goals that I'm going to talk about and all the family goals, the role modeling part kind of organically would show up as I consciously work towards these things. All right, the last bucket is this career/business/achievement/feeling useful. And my overall goal there is to explore whatever lies within this overlap of personal growth, being of value to someone else, and bringing in money. As I try to do this exploration, things may not always hit all three, and that's okay. It's all about trying on that metaphorical outfit and seeing how it looks and how it feels before deciding whether to move forward. So what does that all mean? I think Airbnb wise, I have learned so much about entrepreneurship, about hospitality, and my goal really is just to continue learning and making time for consuming content, but also making time for applying that knowledge. I think specifically for this year, I want to improve kind of the operational side. Both my husband and I, we kind of fell into different roles in managing this Airbnb, and I think we can revisit some of those roles to really play more to our strengths. Real estate investing wise, I want to look for the next investment opportunity, either a long-term rental that's already in town or a short-term rental somewhere fun that we would like to visit. The more tactical aspect of that I've previously already shown in other videos, so if you're interested, feel free to go take a look at how I would go about doing that. But briefly, what it looks like for me will be browsing roughly weekly for 5 minutes on Zillow for the local market, just to keep up to date and see if there's anything interesting there for a long-term rental, and also exploring and defining and narrowing down to maybe a couple markets that I want to do a deeper dive on for a potential short-term rental investment. Now, content creation wise, it has been such an incredible journey so far. When you guys tell me how something resonates with you, or when you tell me something's been really helpful, that really makes my day. And a lot of the topics I've shared are just kind of personal growth things I've already done, which is already an interest of mine and baseline. So to be able to learn stuff and then kind of just scoop up the bits and summarize that to be useful to someone else and be paid for that and learn even more stuff in the process of doing this is like an infinite loop that continuously checks all the boxes. For this year specifically, my goal would be to get better at the production, like the technical aspects of lighting and the camera and color grading and all the things that make for a better viewing experience for all of you. I find this kind of hilarious to shoot this video on this day where the light is constantly changing, and I feel like I'm not really equipped to figure out what I should be doing with my camera. I'm planning to upgrade my camera within the next month. It is kind of a lot of money, but I'm also secretly very excited about the possibility of playing and learning how to use that new camera. And then B, I want to give more thought to the business aspect of content creation and YouTube. I started making money on YouTube about halfway through last year, and I'm proud of what I achieved in just that amount of time while working full-time and being a complete beginner. But so far, this by no means can replace like a real job. In the longer term, now that this feels more real and I'd like to continue going down the content creation path, I want to figure out a way where this can be its own financially self-sustaining activity, maybe even make a profit. And of course, I want to do it in a way that feels right and useful and good. From a more traditional job/career angle, that is still something that I plan to be doing for the foreseeable future. I get to help people, I get paid for it, and then the personal growth piece, that can take just so many different forms. I don't know what that next thing would look like, and my goal this year is just to be more confident about this open-endedness. It can be hard to trust my instincts to just explore whatever feels right because it can feel like it's a detour. But at the end of the day, am I more concerned about reaching some arbitrary destination? Or has it always been about finding something that fits within this zone that overlaps on this diagram and trusting wherever that leads. I know it's a very nebulous goal, but basically I want to be very intentional with how I spend my time. I want to be open-minded to possibilities and be confident that that is the right thing to do for me. With all of these goals and tactics laid out, I have a much better chance of actually achieving them this year, and I'm really excited to see how they play out. That said, I am not entirely wedded to these mechanisms. You'll notice I didn't even follow the SMART framework because what's more important is the why and the vision that is behind these goals. As long as I can stay focused on those, I can trust myself to make a very intentional and well thought out pivot if need be. Thanks for hanging out with me as we plan out 2024, and I hope your year is off to a good start. I'd love to know what your top priorities are for this year. I find your comments always so inspiring, and I'm sure whoever else is reading those comments in the audience will appreciate them too. Please subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye!